Hi, this is Dina for Splitcoaststampers. In this video, I'll show you two different ways to add a vintage look to a plain glass ornament. I'm starting off with a bunch of die cuts, and this is a Spellbinders Club set that had all kinds of floral branches for fall. And those types of dies work really well for this. You can also use small shapes to create a repeating pattern on your ornament. I cut my pieces out of a 90-pound watercolor paper that has a little texture to it. And I do like textured paper best for this, but smooth papers can work as well. The watercolor paper is nice because it's absorbent, and so it becomes a little more moldable when we start adhering it onto the ornament. So I'm going to be using a matte gel medium to stick the die cuts onto my ornament. And I have a frosted glass ornament here. I've got a small flat brush, and this roll of foam tape is just giving my ornament a place to sit without rolling away while I'm working, so that I have both hands free to want to hang on to the brush and want to hang on to the die cut if it moves. I'm brushing the gel medium onto the ornament, and then I'll use the brush to add more gel medium over the die cut and work the paper down until it relaxes and adheres to the curves of the glass. And you can see that it takes a little patience to get the pieces to lay down and cooperate. But once the paper starts to absorb the gel medium, it will be just fine. So what we're doing in this step is creating a raised design on the surface of the ornament. And when it dries, we'll add some more layers of paint to give it an antiqued look. And there are some alternatives on this step. You can use a double-sided adhesive or adhesive-backed foam or paper. I like using the gel medium though, mainly because it does help the paper to contour to the curve of the ornament a little bit better. Use what you have and figure out what works for you. But this is my preference for doing these kind of ornaments. So I'm going to continue covering the surface of the ornament with die cuts until I have the design just how I want it. And then I will allow the gel medium to dry completely before I move on. The next step is to cover the entire surface of the ornament with black gesso, making sure that you get in and around all the edges and gaps in the die cuts. If you don't have black gesso, you can use white or clear gesso as a base coat and then cover that with black paint. But you do want to create a black base in this step, and be sure to cover up all the color of your ornament and of the die cuts. And hopefully you don't have to add the extra step that I did, but if you accidentally break the neck of your ornament while you're working, you can super glue that back together and carry on. Just put a bow on it and nobody needs to know. And again, be sure to let the black layer dry before you move on to the next step. For the next layer, I want to create a kind of a copper look, and I have a brown craft paint that I'm going to mix with a copper metallic paint. If you don't have copper paint, you can use a mix of reddish browns and oranges for this step. My brush is dry, and I'm tapping off quite a bit of the paint so that when I paint over the ornament, the brush goes just over the surface and the raised elements on the ornament, but lets some of that black remain around the edges of the die cuts and in the texture of the paper. So again, you don't want complete coverage with this step. We want some of the black base to show through. As a final step, I'm going to use some teal craft paint, and again with a very dry brush and as little paint as possible, I'm going to go back and lightly brush the raised areas of the ornaments, which are those die cut pieces that we added earlier. You can use any green or blue-green paint for this, or a mixture. And you can Google images of patina for ideas of what this type of oxidized metal can look like. So here is my finished ornament with a die cut watercolor paper. And this one was done in the very same way, but I used die cut label sheets instead and just adhered them directly with the sticky back of the paper. And that works fine too. It's just not as dramatic an effect as the textured paper. I did one other sample that I wanted to share. The raised shapes here are adhesive fun foam. And I feel like they're a little bit too thick, but it's kind of a whimsical look too, so maybe that will be somebody else's style. This one I coated with black gesso and then went back over with a dry brushed coat of white gesso and then just some light highlights with silver paint. If you do an image search for whitewashed pressed metal, that was the effect I was going for, and I think it would have looked nicer with the branch and floral die cuts that I used on the other pieces, but it was sort of an experiment anyway, and maybe this color combination will spark an idea for you. If you want to do a whitewashed ornament, you can use other colors like gray or metallics for the base. I am posting this video as part of our Holiday Fest event, and I will add a few more ideas for color combinations in the forum there as well. If you're wanting to add a faux finish to something that is not an ornament, this technique is easy to do on other surfaces as well, so I hope you'll have fun with that, and I thank you so much for watching.